space, dust, which can reflect the light. And you have already known what is the visible light range, what is the infrared, what is the UV range. So those things you have to remember. What is the below 400 is going to be which range is going to be UV range. Above 700 is infrared light. So, and 400 to 700 is the visible light. And within that range, 400 to 700, each specific colored light has the specific range of wavelength. So that is follows the VIBGYOR from 400 to 700, and probably around 600 that area is in the red zone, 400 that area is the purple zone, and then is gradation going on, and the different lights has different wavelengths. So what is the linearity? We talked about the standard curve also, like linearity. When a change in concentration results in a straight line calibration curve, what we call is called the linearity. When a straight line, so it's linear, is going as per we are increasing the concentration, the optical density or the reading in the spectrophotometer or any instrument which is measuring the light intensity either in the wavelength or in the total light is getting straight, then is called the linear, going to straight line, that is called the linear. So that is the change in the concentration results in a straight line calibration curve as discussed under Beer's law. That means the increase in the concentration is directly proportional to increase in absorbance. Right? How much light is getting absorbed is getting reflected with the concentration. Higher, getting concentration higher is going to more and more optical density or the reading. That is the directly proportional. That is the Beer's law. And then when is and anything standard curve has to be in the linear range. If it is beyond linear range, is Plato call it's not acceptable. So all standard curve, the instrument has to be standardized with the calibration with the standard curve, which is the another linear zone. So neutral density filters to check linearity over a range of wavelengths are commercially available as a sealed sets of different colors and concentrations. So now they are telling that to check whether the specific wavelength is giving with the specific reading. So now there are different types of colors, commercially colors available to make sure that that means 683, if it is or 700 is red, is actually reading in the 700 on that range. You understand what I mean? So you have a color solution, a red color solution. You are putting the instrument at 700 and you can get the value. You can see it is measuring. If you put that instrument, you set it in 400, it is not going to read it. So that is the different colors. It can be seen. So reflectance spectrophotometry. Reflectance spectrophotometry is another quantitative spectrophotometric technique. The light is reflected from the surface of a colorimetric reaction used to measure amount of known. I don't think you need all those things. Just make sure the spectro is really physics. Light is reflected from the surface of the colorimetric reaction. That means the reaction has given the color, and from the color light is reflected, and that is getting captured through the in the then a beam of light is directed on the flat surface and the light is reflected from. It's very difficult for you guys to understand. Just remember that these reflectance spectrophotometry use the photo detector principle. Photo means light. It is detects through the measurement of the photo detector that the light's amount of reflected light on the you doesn't need to do all these things. So reflectance spectrophotometry use the principles that a photo detector measures the amount of reflected light direct to it. That's all. You doesn't need to know all the physics. You can highlight it in your ear or you can write, keep a note. So this is the whole principle, how it works. A is the light source, B is the slit from where the light is going to come, C is the filter where they are going to pass the wavelength selector. So which wavelength you like to measure, 400, you are going to fix this one so that the slit is going to allow you to pass only that light. Then there is the lens or slit. Now is going through the prism or lens. Then this is the test surface. Here is the cuvette where your solution is there in the instrument. And from there, light is reflected, is going to another lens, another flat surface. And then from here, what is the light is reflecting is not the absorbance. This is the reflection. Spectrophotometry is the absorbance. It's absorbing the light. That is the reading. And here, from one light is coming, specific light source is coming, then is getting reflected to the another surface, and then it is getting to the detector and giving the signals, and then finally it is giving the reading. So D is the detector and H is the readout device. This is the reflectance. That is called the reflection. Two types of reflection. One is reflected here. From here, the light is going, is reflected from the color solution to the another lens, and then from this is going to the detector, and detector is finally showing the measurement. Application of the reflectance spectrophotometry is used in bedside or POCT with smaller handheld instrument. It's also used for home testing. Like the quantification blood glucose, single test methodology. When you are putting the blood in the strip, it's going there, the blood is red color. So it is going from the light is coming in that is inside the instrument, you cannot see it. The same principles apply, and ultimately you are seeing the reading in the glucose meter. So that is, you can tell what is getting used for the reflectance spectrophotometry is mainly for the POCT testing. One example is the glucose, which is single test methodology in maintaining good diabetic control. Some they use for the therapeutic drug monitoring analyzer. In urine analysis system, various instruments use dry reagent reflectance spectrophotometry. Generally, it's less. Mainly, we use the pH paper or the urine analysis strip or the urinometer, but rarely some big labs or who doesn't have that, they use this one. But mainly the main good example for daily use and which people use the diabetic control to check the diabetic, who are mainly the diabetic patient, to check the glucose meter. That is the reflectance spectrophotometry to big name to apply. We have another one. It's called the ion selective electrodes. By the name, you can understand it measures through the ions. What are the ions is present in the solution? So how to measure the ions? You need the electrodes, like you have learned about the pH meter. Electrodes means which can read the electrons or the ions. Electrodes, the electricity, the ions actually is positively or negatively charged, right? So that it can generate some kind of charge. So that is the electricity. From the electricity comes the electrodes. So these electrodes ultimately sends the ions, selective ions, which you like to measure and give you the measurement. Response directly the analyte in the specimen. What are the analytes? Any analyte, sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, bicarbonate, chloride. Everything is called the analyte and used for direct potentiometric measurement. So what is that? The potential of an electrode compared with the potential of another electrode. So it has the selective electrodes. Like is not the pH electrode can measure everything. Every time you have to, for the calcium measurement, you have to use the calcium electrode. For the chloride electrode, you have to chloride. So then if you put the calcium electrode, if there is no calcium in the analyte or in the solution or the sample, is not going to measure anything. Even there is a presence of chloride or other things. It can only, the calcium electrode can only sense, that is called the ion selective electrode. It can only measure the selective ions which electrodes we are using. pH can only measures the hydrogen. pH means we know the hydrogen ion concentration, right? Hydrogen and hydroxyl. pH can only measure the amount of hydrogen ion concentration. Chloride electrode can use the only the chloride, if there is a chloride present in the sample or how much chloride is there. So one of your daily lab use ion selective method is the pH. Calcium or chloride, we doesn't use it anymore because it can, when you put the on auto analyzer, everything comes out. Sometimes it needs to be done when you can do the in the bedside. Sometimes if you have the ion electrode methods, but pH, we are using it in the lab. You have the portable pH electrode, pH meter, or you can have the benchtop or laptop pH meter. So pH electrode is one of the good example of your ion selective electrodes. So what it happens? It is again physics. No need, but just I'm reading it because basically is a sensor or transducer that convert the activity of a specific ion dissolved in a solution, where if the sodium or potassium or chloride, whatever, dissolved in a solution to an electrical potential. When you have this solution, there is the electrical potential is generated, which can measured by a volumeter or pH meter. pH meter use the hydrogen concentration. Calcium, if you put the calcium chloride, then there will be plus calcium chloride negative. But this electrode, calcium electrode, is going to detect only the calcium. One of the most common reference electrodes used for potentiometry is the silver or silver chloride electrode. So as you know, in the pH meter, we told you that there is an inside and outside there is a bulb where you have the electrical gradients, and it can feel or sense the difference of the electricity, the charge, that is the ions. So IC work on the basis principles of the galvanic cell. The galvanic cell is made out of two parts. It's too much, no one needs this. So galvanic cell is made up of two parts. It's called half cells, each containing a metal in a solution. Of one is salts like the calcium or hydrogen ions or chloride or anything. So inside there is a cell which is a metal, is containing metal in a solution. These methods involve the measurement of electrical signals associated with chemical systems that are within electrochemical cell. Then is compared to a reference electrode and a net charge is determined. Like you have the pH, we have the pH 4, 6, 7, 8, 4, 7, 10. So you have the reference electrode. So they have the reference electrode. So this electrode is giving like the pH 4, then the calcium chloride has the electrode, reference electrode. Maybe this is 1 millimolar, this is 5 millimolar, this is 10 millimolar. And then they are going to again do some kind of standard curve, and then they can compare to a reference electrode to the sample measurement. The strength of this charge is directly proportional to the concentration of the selected ion, like this same, like the spectrophotometer. How much material you have, what or the analyte you have, you would like to measure how much you have, then the reading is going to be directly proportional to the concentration. So IC can measure concentration of ionic species other than hydrogen, like for the pH, including it can so fluoride, chloride, ammonia, sodium, potassium, calcium, sulfide, and nitrate ions, and each one needs to have here the specific electrode. So one of the example is the pH meter. You already see it in the lab. Sign has showed you. So pH meter is a boxy looking instrument attached to a glass or plastic tube called a probe. Right? Signer told you all these things, right? This is a probe. And this probe is going to be dipped in a solution which one we need to measure. Before that, you have to use the standard pH solution. We have three: pH 4, pH 7, pH 10. pH 4 is the acidic standard, pH 7 is the neutral standard, and pH 10 is the maximum basic standard or the alkaline standard. And if I dip the electrode here and the pH meter gives the exact, if I dip the pH electrode in 4, it gives the 4. That means the pH meter is working. Then you are washing the electrode again and then putting in the neutral pH, the 7, it should give the pH. There will be a standard deviation. Maybe it's a 4, 3.95 to 4.025. That is okay. That you can adjust it a little bit. If you can stay, because pH needs some time to adjust. But it has to read, 4 should not read 5. Should not read more than 4.2 or 3. Same thing for the 7 and same thing for the 10. So as I told you, is attached to a glass or plastic probe called probe. Handled pH meter have a probe directly attached to the instrument or the body. So you saw the handle pH meter is directly attached to this one, but this is on the tabletop. So this has an arm which is holding the pH probe. The probe has a glass bulb on one end and the electrical wire on the other. So here is a glass bulb and there is an electrical wire is going out here. The wire sends data to the instrument when the glass bulb is dipped into a sample solution. Most essential component of a pH electrode is a special sensitive glass bulb membrane made from silica that permits the passage of hydrogen ions but no other ionic species. Only the hydrogen. That is the specific for the hydrogen ions, because hydrogen ions only determine your pH. If, say for example, you are not only measuring a solution which has hydrogen ions. Your think sodium chloride is in a buffer. You like to see the measurement of the pH, whether what is your intention, whether solution is acidic or alkaline, whether there is a sodium, there is a chloride, there may be so many other electrolytes or other analytes or ions. But this specific pH meter is going to allow to know how many hydrogen ions are there, whether they are depending on the presence of hydrogen ions is going to tell you whether is it less acidic, neutral, or less alkaline. When the electrode is immersed in a test solution containing hydrogen ions, the external ion diffuses through the membrane and the equilibrium is reached between the external and internal condition. So what is happening? From the outside, inside there is some solution. Outside there is your hydrogen. So if there is more hydrogen ion outside, it's going to inside as the equilibrium is maintained. And then it's going to tell you the pH. If there is less hydrogen ion, then the hydrogen ions is going to come out. So there is a buildup of charge. When they are moving in and out, there is a buildup of charge on the inside of the membrane that is proportional to the number of hydrogen ions in the external solution. So pH meters are sensitive, high impedance millivolt meter or digital measuring system must be used to measure this potential difference accurately. Again, as pH, you guys know, is the logarithm of hydrogen ion concentration. So the charge developed is going to be measured, which is directly proportional to the logarithm of the ionic concentration. 10, 100, 1000, like that. pH 10 times each time from the, which is measuring from the external solution, from the charge buildup between the external and internal solution of the pH electrode. To measure the electrode potential developed at the unselective membrane, pH electrode must be immersed in the test solution. Yes, that we told. First, you have the reference system, and then two must be connected with the millivolt measuring system. So you have to first do the standard reference system, and then you are going to measure the actual solution. So this is the pH meter, how it works. This is the silver chloride. That is the main electrode is made up of. This is the glass bulb. This is called a sensitive glass bulb. The outer body, and is the silver what is going on here. These are called the pH electrodes. So here the back and forth of the hydrogen ion concentration. This is the KCl electrode liquigens. This is not the pH, HgCl, mercury. Or they can be, this is the reference electrode and this is the glass electrode. Reference electrode means it can be made up of plastic and this is can made up the glass. But there should be internal, there is a liquid junction here. This is too much. You guys know doesn't need to need it. It doesn't need to read it. Only just read the specific points I told you. pH meter is one example for your ion selective methods. It is measure the difference of charge generated from the external to internal electrodes between the charge in the external solution and the charge. Difference of charge is built up from the inside of the glass electrode and the outside of the solution. This is one of the best example for the pH meter. And for each specific ion measurement, you need specific electrodes. And here the pH, for pH only, the concentration is directly proportional to the pH value. So that is, we are till just talking about the charge one. This nothing is going to come in your questions. So basically, they can tell you what is the galvanic cell. You use the photosensor. What is the charge? What is the example? Give you the name pH meter or calcium electrode or something. What is use? The difference of electrical charge. But we just talked about the difference of the charge. Whether the solution is the color or colorless or it doesn't matter. It is the amount of charge, hydrogen ion for the pH, calcium ion for the calcium. What is the charge is from the external solution and inside the probe, electrode probe. What is the glass bulb? But it says the ISC colorimetry, we never use all these things, the other things. pH meter we use. Colorimetry measures the amount of current passing between the two electrodes in an electrochemical cell. So inside the one instrument, one probe, there is the two electrodes. The principle of colorimetry involves the application of a constant current to generate a titrating agent. The time required to titrate the sample at constant current is measured and this is related to the amount of. I'm skipping this because these are not going to come. These are going to be too complicated for you guys. Okay, so now we are going to electrophoresis. This is also huge things. I am just telling you very short. Electrophoresis means you are separating the different components of a chemical. Separate, you have a protein. If you do the electrodes, a protein you guys know is made up of amino acids or is a big protein can make up of different types of subunits. Small pulse. So electrophoresis can separate those. Say for example, hemoglobin, you have the globin molecule. You have the what are the you have the alpha chains, two alpha chains, two beta chains. If you do the electrophoresis, you can separate them individually. And from there, you can understand whether there is any problem in any of the subunits. That is the higher study they does when the doctors needs to know where the actual problem lies. So it goes under a electrical, it's a movement as per the molecular weight versus charge. Like in the centrifugal machine, it's separate as per the thickness or heaviness. Here, this electrophoresis is migration of the molecules with the charge. The higher molecules cannot move too much. The lower weight or the lower light one is going to move down. It's a gel, kind of gel sheet, and it moves. If you load the sample, it's going to move as per the electrical gradients with the charge, and it's going to separate out. So that is the electrophoresis is the migration of the charged solutes or particles in an electrical field. When charged particles are made to move, differences in molecular structure can be seen because different molecules have different velocities in an electrical field. Heavier one will move slow, lighter one is going to move faster. So move faster means they can travel more than the heavier ones. The assay using electrophoresis involves the movement of charged particles when an external electrical current is produced in a liquid environment. So you are putting the things, you are loading your samples in a gel, then you are putting the charge, electrical charge in a liquid. So everything is going to one side to another side, and everything is moved along with the electrical charge. So electrophoresis is a technique for separation or purification of ions, proteins, other molecules for the biochemical interest. It is used frequently in the clinical laboratory to separate serum proteins. There are different types of serum proteins. So they can serum the albumin, globulin, plum, anything, any type of protein or any type of ion it can be, because each molecule has a charge and the weight. So depending upon the charge and weight, the velocity or the movement takes place and they separate. So each molecule, two same molecule cannot be the same charge. Even if the molecular weight same, depending on the composition, their charge will be different. So here two parameters works, charge and the heaviness. So equipment needed for electrophoresis generally consists of a sample applicator, a solid medium, a gel, a buffer system, an electrophoresis chamber, which houses the solid medium and the sample. Electrodes and wicks, timer in a power cycle. My God, why they are doing these things? So basically you can see this one. This is the electrophoresis chamber. So here is the power supply. You have one positive side, one is the cathode, one is the negative side, because you have to charge from one direction to another direction. This is the gel, which is the liquid gel, semi-liquid gel. This is the box which is filled of the solution or liquid. The liquid is a buffer. And then you can see the holes. You are going to put your samples here. And then you are going to ram this with the charge, and these molecules is going to separate, is going to move from this side to that side, from cathode to anode. So electrical field applied to the solution to the oppositely charged electrodes spaced in the solution. Specific ions then travel through the solution towards the electrode of the opposite charge. Cations, which are the positively charged particles, move towards the negative. Who are more positive, they are going to move towards this side. Who are more negative, they are going to stay this side. Okay. What is the clinical application? Used to determine quantitatively the elevation of deficiency of specific classes of immunoglobulins. Albumin, what is the alpha, beta. So this is the main. Then there is a subunits. When you run, you can see they are separate. Albumin is made of this amount of alpha 1, alpha 2, beta, and gamma. When you ruin the albumin itself, it can separate into these 4 subunits 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the total albumin, but it can be separated. From here, say for example, one patient has some problem and they said they doesn't give this band. That means that is the deficiency in the albumin alpha 1 subunit is missing or the beta subunit missing. So beta subunit has some role which is may contribute to the health problem. This is the electrophoresis, ladies. Nephelometry. Light can be absorbed, reflected, scattered, transmitted when it strikes a particle in a liquid. So it can be absorbed, it can be reflected, it can be scattered or transmitted when you put the light in a particular liquid field. So it is the measurement of light that has been scattered. So when you put something light, say the torch light, you put some, it reflects back, right? Scattered. So that is the neplometry when it is scattered. Turbidimetry, measurement of the loss of the intensity. Turbid means solution is not opaque, it's turbid. So then when you put the light, what is going to be happen? You see the less light because it lost the intensity of the light because it's not clear one. So it lost the intensity of light transmitted through a solution because of the light being scattered. Turbidimetry will measure light that is scattered, not absorbed or reflected by the particles in the suspension. These are stupid things. Sorry. Nephrotropy has become increasingly popular in diagnostic laboratories and depends on the light scattering properties of the antigen antibody complex, mainly in the immunology. The quantity of cloudiness or turbidity in a solution can be measured photometrically. So when your specific antigen coated lattice particle acting as a reaction interceptor, just one line is fine to measure the antigen antibody complex. Neplometry is going to be easy. Just write the notes. If anything comes extra, I'll take care of that. It's too much for you guys. Nobody knows that. This is the principle, how it's going to work. Light light is going through the lens. You have the antigen antibody complex. Then it's getting scattered, going to the lens. From here, it's scattered. Then it's going to the detector. Nobody generally use this one. When light is passes through a suspension, the resulting complexes of insoluble precipitation scattered incident light. No need. Just what the advantage as disadvantage. It's a rapid reproducible and relatively simple to operate and very common in higher volume laboratories. Mainly is application in the immunology laboratory. This is more important for you guys. Generally, nowadays, even nobody does the nephrolometry. But what is the advantage and disadvantage? Mainly you use for the immunology. Immunology means antigen antibody complex. If when there is a formation of antigen antibody complex, to measure that one, so the light scattered, we use the nephelometry technology. And why we use this one? This is rapid, reproducible, relatively simple to operate, and very common in higher volume laboratories. That's okay. So mainly application in the immunology laboratory. Disadvantage, high initial equipment cost. So big lab can afford it, not the small scale or medium scale. Interfering substances such as microbial contamination may cause protein denaturation and erroneous test results. intrinsic specimen turbidity or lipemia may exceed the preset limits. So if the sample is hemolyzed, if sample has the lipemic samples, or there is a bacterial contamination, is going to be turbid, right? So it cannot give you the exact results. So that is a disadvantage. Immunoassay. Immuno means immunology. Immunology means antigen antibody reaction. So where do you have the antigen?
We have it in the surface of our RBCs, ma'am.
Okay, good. And antibodies are
In
Plasma.
plasma or serum.
Plasma.
or serum.
In the plasma.
Yeah, and is specific antigen is bind to specific antibody, right? So who has the one blood group, they cannot have the same antibody. They can have the different. So A blood group can has the B antibody, right? But not the A antibody. Otherwise, it's going to agglutinate because A antigen is going to bind the A antibody. Am I right or wrong?
Yes,
Yes, you're
ma'am.
right.
Okay, so it's getting fresh now in immunology in the when we are talking about the blood grouping.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
so yeah, I have to refresh my mind, right? Yes. So you can see every step you know to keep your memories or studies or reviews refresh. What is coming where, you will never know. Okay, so testing that relies on the inherent ability of antibody to bind a specific antigen. That is the immunoassay. Antibodies, which is another name, is immunoglobulins. And these are the proteins. How you generate? When there is an immune response, when the body recognizes a foreign pathogen. When the baby born, the baby is fresh, nothing is there. They doesn't have the immunity. That's why it's called the babies is more susceptible because they were in the mother's womb. They were protected. So when they are coming outside, a single flu, single things is going to go inside their body as a foreign pathogen. And but the boy, baby has RBC and the RBC surface. There is the antigen. They have the WBCs. There are different antigens are there. But at the same time, they're the immune system, beta lymphocyte, T lymphocytes. They are going to start to attack the foreign pathogen and generate the antibody. So antibodies are the proteins generated during an immune response. Immune response means when a body recognizes a foreign pathogen, pathogen or antigen, antigen, antibody. Okay, so when the foreign something is coming inside, is the foreign, it's not your inside. In the red blood cell surface, you have the antigen already. Okay, that is your own antigen. But when any foreign and pathogen is coming inside your body, that is unknown to your body. That is an antigen, it's a protein or something, foreign pathogen. That is antigen. But it's a foreign antigen. Your body doesn't know, it cannot recognize. So when the fighter cells, beta lymphocytes, all the immune responsive cells now is going to attack. How they are going to attack? They are going to produce the antibody. And then the antibody is going to destroy, bind with the antigen and inactivate. Then the body got the. Now, once the body got that foreign pathogen and produced the antibody, now the body can recognize when your lifetime and they are ready to fight it immediately. So, first immune response takes some times to get the if there's a fever or new things, it gets a couple of days times to make the produce the antibody to understand the foreign pathogen, then to produce the defensive system to make the antibodies. But when it comes second time, third time, intensity is more or less, and the body can instantly start. Oh, I know this guy. This antigen is not in our body. Is an enemy. Fight. I know this one, like this one. Okay. So immune response in humans are a polyclonal response. Polyclonal means many antibodies are made to attack a specific antigen that is inside the body. But immunoassays use monoclonal antibodies. That means specific antibody against a specific antigen that cannot be inside your body. Inside your body is a polyclonal because couple of antibodies can attack a specific antigen, which is the similar structure. But when you are doing the immunoassay, you have to make it. So monoclonal antibodies, researchers have to develop it. So if it is a specific protein, specific antibodies, that is called the monoclonal antibodies. One specific antibody that is used to detect an antigen of specific antigen of interest. So immunoassay to be able to detect antibody antigen complex when present, we need to be able to see somehow. How are we going to see it? There are different techniques. Those are called the immunoassays. Immunolabeling. We can label or tag on antibody. You made that polyclonal antibody, then you can tag either with the radioactive or with the color or with some chemicals so that you can later process and see the color or checking the luminescent power or the radioactivity or the fluorescence tag. So there are different types of techniques, immunoassays, called ELISA or EIA. It's called the enzyme immunoassay or enzyme linked immunoabsorbent assay, ELISA. Fluorescent, they tag the fluorescent dye. So how much has been antigen antibody has been bind, you can use seeing the amount of fluorescent intensity. Chemiluminescence, that's the chemical which gives the illumination, chemical color. So that is called, this is CLIA, fluorescent immunoassay FIA, chemiluminescence immunoassay CLIA, and radio immunoassay when is tagged with the radioactivity is called the RIA. So basically what is happened, this is solid phase antibody, you have the antibody, antigen you have in the serum and sample, then is became tagged, attached with each other, they make a bind. Then what happened? Then see, and second, then you are going to, you have this now. Then you have the another antibody which is tagged with the label, with designated label, either with radioactivity or with the fluorescence dye or with the enzymes. And then what happened? This became attached with the other side. This is the, then measuring this, you found that how much is there. So enzyme immunoassay, it is used the, these questions comes, ELISA, enzyme linked immunoabsorbent assay, which is use an antibody linked to an enzyme to detect or measure antigen. Okay, what are the tag or label? Alkaline phosphatase or horseradish peroxidase. These questions may come. Alkaline, the enzyme immunoassay, what type of sorry, antibody and antigen can be tagged with what type of, they are going to give you a couple of enzyme names. So alkaline phosphatase or horseradish peroxidase, ALP or HRP. Okay, horseradish peroxidase. Write the note. ELISA is tagged for the ELISA, which is antibody. The secondary antibody is tagged with alkaline phosphatase or horseradish peroxidase. So physically, it doesn't need to see that what is happening. Again, you saw that one. This is the primary. This is the antibody is binding, antigen is binding from the serum and sample. Then you are tagged with the another one. This is the alkaline phosphatase. The secondary antibody is called the secondary antibody. Secondary antibody is also binds with this antigen is present in the serum and plasma, and this is tagged with another enzyme or the marker. We call the marker or enzyme. When is the enzyme? Is enzyme immunoassay. When is the fluorescent dye? Is called the fluorescence FIA. When is the chemical gives the color is called the CLIA. When is the tagged with the radioactivity, some radioactive is called the RIA. So ultimately what is happening? Then you are putting this one, develop the color and see. You can get the different types of color. Patient B, patient C, these are the different titers. Means in which dilution you can see the development of the color and how much is color. You can see how it is called the small oil. This first oil is coated with this antibody, the primary monoclonal antibody. This is the monoclonal antibody. Then you are adding the serum and sample, let them incubate for some time because that time you are giving to bind the antigen from the serum with the antibody, monoclonal antibody, which is placed in the ELISA plate. Then after that, you are going to wash it. Then you are going to put the secondary antibody, which is tagged with your marker. Then you are going to incubate it again for some time. Then you are going to wash it. Finally, they are going to develop the color. There are SOPs how you are going to develop the color with some chemical reaction. Then finally, you are going to measure in the ELISA reader. What is the color intensity? The color intensity, how much color intensity means that many antigen is present in the sample. So that is the EIA, enzyme immunoassay. Enzyme immunoassays is the ELISA. There are 4 different types of ELISA test: direct ELISA, indirect ELISA, sandwich ELISA, competitive ELISA. You doesn't need to know this. Fluorescence, same thing. You can only, that is tag is the fluorescence dye. What is the common fluorophore used? This you can remember. Fluorescenia. Okay. And excitation. What is the limit? This is nanometer. Is which range? UV range, normal range, infrared range. So you are giving excited this one with this light, and ultimately you are going to see the color at 615. So this is the fluorescence tag. It's giving, you need the fluorescence reader. You cannot see the, in naked eye you cannot see any color. Nothing. It's going to be the same like the clear. But when you put, because this fluorescence dye is only can give you the color or when it's getting excited with specific light, wavelength of light. So what is the excitation light? It's the 320 to 340. So when you tag this one here, then you have to excite this one. That is the instrument does it. We doesn't do it. It's already fixed in the instrument. And then you are going to see the color intensity. Fluorescence immunoassay, fluoroprobe commonly used is fluoroceria. Chemi is luminescence or CLIA is the used some chemical which light is produced when there is a chemical reaction. What is the substrate used in this? Is a luminol. It's like it gives you the color like ELISA, but it is use the different tag, which is the chemiluminescence, which is called the luminol. And this time is a chemical reaction takes place. And light is emitted by a substance when it returns to form an excited state to ground state. So same thing is here. Here is the HRP. What is the HRP? Then you are going to use the luminol, is the enhancer. So it's going to give you the more color, like the enzyme immunoassay, but it is more enhanced. Radio immunoassay is the label, is the radioactive product, either carbon or iodine or C14 or tritium, sodium, whatever the radioactive isotope. So when an immunoacid that uses radio-labeled molecules in a stepwise formation of antigen-antibody complexes. Here, everything looks like clear, but you have to measure with the radiation counter or the radiation which can measure the radioactivity. But this method is very sensitive, but not used widely due to danger of radiation. I used to do a lot of RIA in ELISA also before. So RIA is only thing is very sensitive, but very carefully you have to do. You have to do a lot of precautions because the radioactivity. So common radioactive isotope used is iodine 125. I for iodine and 125 is the radioactivity. And label antigens measured with a radiation counter or Geiger counter. So same thing, add buffer to the tubes. Then you are putting the amounts of unlabeled antigen. Then you are adding the radioactive antigen to the mixture. Fixed amount of antibody to the tubes. Radioactive. Ultimately, you are going to separate it, wash it, and see the what is the count. So immunoassay analyzer is called the Beckman-Coulter access. This benchtop immunoanalyzer uses the chemiluminescence technology that can test for over 50 diagnostic immunoassay tests like the beta HCG hormones, testosterone, thyroid, rubella. So you can see it's getting all the hormones are mainly measured through the immunoassay technique. It can give you the better result. It can be done by the chemical, it's not like that, but mostly it's used and some drugs, some cardiac enzymes when you really need a very good results. So it can test over 50 diagnostic immunoassay. You have to remember the name. One of the best immunoanalyzer used in the clinical lab is a benchtop. It's called Beckman Coulter Access 2. Use chemiluminescence technology that can test over 50 diagnostic immunoassay tests. These are the name of the test. You can do that. Okay. Now chemistry laboratory information system. That's the instrumentation. And that okay. So now we are going to come to the chemistry part. Laboratory information system. Majority of you already discussed about the laboratory information system, how it works. So nowadays, before we have to chart everything in paper. Now we have the software we are using in the computer mainly and documenting everything in the electronic using the software. It's the laboratory information system or LIS. In most healthcare venues, multiple software products are employed between various departments. Depends upon who wants what. Who needs more statistics? They are going to use some softwares which is linked to statistics. Who are using the chemistry lab? They can use the specific softwares which can give you the base for getting the autoanalysis. So immunoassay, they can use different. I am not a master in softwares, but different departments can use their different softwares as per their need to produce the patient result linked to the instrumentation. So, but in the specimen receiving, accessing, we also need the software. So, like nowadays, people are using the Epic. Before some you people use the Meditech. So there are different softwares, and we have the LIS. So what happened here? You are going to document everything. Whatever you document, you who are under the circle of care, they can see all the information. So most that's why in the lab we use an LIS, a laboratory information system. So oh, I already tell you, but they didn't tell you the Epic. This is the most recent one, Epic Hyperdrive. Okay, there are many brands of LIS you may see depending on where you are working. The name of few is Beaker, Meditech. I used Meditech. I never use others, but yeah, and right now we are using Hyperdrive, Epic Hyperdrive. This is the most recent one. So yeah, so nowadays labs are mostly use the Meditech, whatever I know. But these are the different names: Beaker, Meditech, Millennium, Mises, or Sunset. The exchange of information between the computer and the user is called interfacing. This is the terminology you have to remember. What is the meaning of interfacing, the exchange of information between the computer and the user. So you are document something. Say for example, you are collecting the blood, you are document who did it, you scan it and document it. Other side, when it's going to the specimen receiving and accession department, they are seeing the information for the same patient before they accept it. So that is the communication, the exchange of information between the computer and the user is called the interfacing. Sorry. For laboratory use, the interface specification should include what data will be transferred, what data will be transferred, where, what data will be transferred, where the data will be transferred, and when data will be transferred, and security and encryption consideration. So interfacing again of the laboratory computer with the analytical testing instruments allow the test result to be entered directly into the computer information system. You got, say for example, what I told you at the beginning from the phlebotomy collection to the specimen accessing receiving. Now they send it to the specific department or laboratory for the testing. After testing, that result should be directly linked with the computer system where the results will be saved in the computer system and they can see. The test result data are transferred directly over a single word or wireless interface. And unidirectional interface transmits or uploads results. So directly from your instruments, the auto analyzer or anything, the result is going to be, you don't have to type or enter the result. Nowadays, from the instrument or anything is going to straight upload in the laboratory information system. It said a list is often interfaced with other information system, is generally between the user and the computer, but sometimes the list is also tagged or interfaced with the other information system, is called the HIS. That is the electrical communication between two computers. This called HIS. Interfacing between the two computers is called most often the HIS. HIS manages patient census information and demographics and systems for billing and the more complex system processes and store patient medical information. The interfacing of the HIS and the laboratory computer facility. So HIS is taking the patient demographics when it's coming in the triage. Patient demographics, healthcare information, the date of birth, what is the address and everything is going to come there. It's demographics and everything. Then billing everything. This is the more basic things is going to be there. And then this information, this is connected with the LIS, Laboratory Information System, where you can see the patient demographics also. And from there, you can do whatever the test. Now, LIS is going to whatever the test has request, order, return, analytical results, and everything is going to deal with the LIS. So now the two computers are talking, HIS and LIS. So interfacing of the HIS and the laboratory computer facilitates the exchange of test request orders, return of analytical results, the laboratory report, and charges of the test ordered and reported. When data is verified, nurses or physicians in the patient care areas can retrieve results through the terminal printer. So you can print it whenever you need it. When you are discharging patient or something, you can do that. So this is kind of things like when you are doing all this thing is going to the same system. Administrative system, HIS, patient ADT, then these are all the laboratory system. So from this is the talk. So then this is the order entry is going there. Then you have the phlebotomy analysis results is going here. So this is the one is going in unidirectional and bidirectional. So software can support all aspects of departmental workflow, including QC, instrument interfaces, result entry, review functions, Auto verification, worksheets, manual areas, result inquiry, everything is going to be there. In addition, management report options are available to provide the laboratory manager with information necessary for the optimal operation of the laboratory. If manager wants to say anything or there is need to be done anything, so it's going to be updated in the system. So as we know, for we are working, we have the three different things from patient receiving or starting for the blood work to end the results. They are pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical. So least functions can be grouped into three categories: pre-analytical, analytical, and post-analytical. So pre-analytical reduction of manual tasks such as test ordering, specimen accessing, specimen labels, specimen tracking between workstation, centrifugation, cap removal, nothing you need to do. So everything is going to say directly specific integrity, correct volume specimen. So everything information system, you are going to scan, you are going to write it. You don't have to do the papering. Analytical, obviously QC, manual results intuitive doesn't have to do that. Quality control, validation of results, everything is going to come in the system. And post analytical is going to have all the reports and everything is archived. Disposable tubes and everything is going to be set in the computer. Whew, finally, unit 1 is done. My goodness.
Yes, miss.
Oof, I am
Break
tired.
break time.
I am tired, dear. What is the next one? Oh,
Correct.
see the
Dutch
video.
flower bulbs since
Okay.
1818.
Northwell Health Labs perform testing on just about 100% of the patients that visit Northwell. This is where it all begins. If you really want to see how you diagnose diseases, that's what we do in a laboratory every single day, and it's the foundation of medical diagnosis. The laboratory itself costs about $60 million, and there's about 100,000 square feet of space here. We partnered with Roche Diagnostics to set up an automated testing line in here. That is their largest installation in North America. It's one of the largest in the world. Currently, this laboratory receives approximately 30,000 tubes every single day for testing. This Roche automated system can process 5,000 tubes an hour, bringing it up to a total of about 50 or 60 million per year that this could process. This is where it all starts. This is where we receive specimens in to the laboratory from all of our trucks. So once the vehicles get in and make their drop-offs, this is where these people all control the chaos. Once the specimens come in from receiving, they're sorted. The ones that are not barcode ready labeled come in here to accessioning so that the automated machines can automatically do the testing. They will sort the test tubes into racks. This sets them up so they can go down the automated conveyor belts into the analyzers. There's a significant percentage of the time that the doctor decides that he or she needs to get a different test after they see the initial results. If they order that test in their computer, this system automatically pulls it out, automatically does the testing that they add on. We have a great mix of talented people working in our laboratory here. It includes a bunch of people who've been here for a long time, some of them more than 20 years with Northwell Laboratories. The laboratory business is all about getting the right answer to the clinician at the right time so they can treat the patient. And we always strive to do that as best as we can and better tomorrow than today.
The next one.
Here's how a spectrophotometer works. A lamp provides the source of light. The beam of light strikes the diffraction grating, which works like a prism and separates the light into its component wavelengths. The grating is rotated so that only a specific wavelength of light reaches the exit slit. Then the light interacts with the sample. From this point, the detector measures the transmittance and absorbance of the sample. Transmittance refers to the amount of light that passes completely through the sample and strikes the detector. Absorbance is a measurement of light that is absorbed by the sample. The detector senses the light being transmitted through the sample and converts this information into a digital display.
So this is your assignment, okay? You have to do the assignment. View topic. Oh dear. Every time it is view topic. Can you guys open it from your end?
Ma'am, it's in the assignment. Go up the top.
Oh, okay.
It's also not there. I checked.
I saw it yesterday.
Yeah, I checked yesterday. It was not there.
There
It's
is
there in the
nothing.
top one. Ma'am, the top one. It's in the first one. Scroll down. The
This
very
one?
top one. The very top one.
Top
This
of the
one?
page. Top of
Yes,
the
top of the
page. Keep
page.
going.
That
Oh, the
one.
clinical.
Yes.
Oh, okay. How it became
Mm.
up there? Oh dear.
D2L
Okay.
is a nightmare.
Oh my God. It should be like that. It's going to coming slowly, midterm, quality assurance. And so on. After that is we are doing the clinical. I am looking here. How is going
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, I was looking there too yesterday.
Yeah, that one. It's by pair.
Oh, I'm going to see it. This is the submission. Anyway, you guys do the, I don't care. So I have to set that one. View submission. So I'm going to put the date or something like that by user, search for, apply, submission, download, Marcus, delete, publish, user, groups, edit assignment. What is the edit assignment? Oh, it's a 40 points. What is the due date you want? What if the due date everybody has to submit it? Otherwise, I'm not going to give the marks.
Can we do it next Tuesday, ma'am, after the finals?
Tuesday or Monday, I don't know. So you can submit it. I'm not going to be on your back. You didn't submit it. You didn't submit it. I'm telling you. I'm tired of this.
Ma'am, this
Not
assignment
not
is by
everyone. Not
group.
everyone. Not everyone. Yeah, not one or two.
Oh,
Yeah, I am not telling you guys not everyone. But you know, for one or two, I cannot complete the things. Okay. Already I have done math assignment. Still now it's not because I'm working for your reviews. Okay. So anyway, which day you want one? This is May 28th, right? So Monday or Tuesday? June 4th or 3rd?
Four.
four.
Or
Four.
yes,
So
please, miss.
you can do in pairs.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
You said in pairs, complete. But again, I'm telling you, if you are doing two, you have to put your name, you have to write down two names. That's say for Evelyn and Bharna is doing Bharna, Evelyn's, and then you have to put the clinical chemistry assignment. Okay.
Okay.
Again, I am going to only accept when it's properly labeled. I am not going to
Yes,
tell you
ma'am.
back. Yeah, yeah. This time, 98% people do the good marking, do the labeling. I should, yeah. But till some of you is not, I have to give back and forth. Sometimes I relabeled it. I cannot do that. Now you are going to be in the professionalism at the end stage. No more spoon feeding, no more backing. You have to be on your independent. You have to do everything perfect. After 1 month or 2 months, you are going to be in your own placement. No moon is going to be on your back. You are going to be your boss. So you have to make sure that you do everything properly. Okay? So ensure both names are on your assignment on the front page. read the marking matrix on the page to maximize your marks. Okay? So it's written here, complete the chemistry case study assignment and submit here when completed. Ensure both names are on your assignment on the front page. Read the marking matrix on the page 2. Be prepared to present your case study to your class. I may ask you to present your case study on your class when you are going to send it. You can come to the, when you are coming to the class, we may ask you to present it in the computer. So be prepared. That's the assignment says. Okay?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this okay? So I can save and close.
Yes, Miss.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Oh, where do you are?
Miss, can we go for break now?
1 minute. Let me see. Okay. My head is, I'm getting really, just give me a second.
Okay.
So after the, just no, I just, after the assignment, there is nothing due in the, I think there is nothing due in the unit number 1, right? I think so. Common chemistry test, storage, retention, automation principle, introduction to assignment. Yes, done. Then we are going to come to the unit number 2. Go for break. Okay, go for break. Okay. So we are going to do the unit number 2 when you are going to be back.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Miss.
Okay. Okay. Sorry for stopping you guys, but I'm getting really for how to finish it.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
Hi, Miss. It's Santiago. I came late today. I just want to let you know that I'm here now. I came at around like 9:30, so I just want to let you know, Miss. I just didn't want to
Okay.
interrupt
So,
you.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss, what time are we back?
After half an hour.
Half an hour. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss is asking that. Did you see my message?
Oh, no, dear. I was just starting. Not starting. I was teaching. Are you
Okay.
done?
Yeah, I sent you a message.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't.
yeah, and I came online about I don't even remember. Yeah, but I'm home and I sent you a message.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I am okay.
You are not drowsy?
Yes, I'm drowsy.
I know. You should be drowsy.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
very
this,
drowsy.
yeah, otherwise, because they put you anesthesia, right? You
Yes,
made
I
you
did.
sleep. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
did. Yeah,
yeah.
so I'm
You'll be
very
able to,
drowsy.
I know, you'll be able to attend the class or no?
I'm online, but I'm just gonna listen in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm gonna lay down and listen. I
Yeah,
just got, yeah. Okay, but I'll be
okay,
online. Thank
okay,
you. Okay.
okay.
Functional quality assessment, clinical chemistry. Slogan.
Okay, so we are starting the unit number 2. It's the glucose metabolism. You guys already studied about the glucose test, what type of test we do, when we do, under your LSP module, under your biochemistry, your when we did the study the digestive system, endocrinology system, so all are connected each other. So in this chapter, we are going to run a little bit more about the different types of glucose testing, because glucose is a nowadays challenge. The diabetic especially is a challenge all over the world. Stress, genetic, there are a lot of factors which can govern the glucose metabolism. So now, what is blood glucose? It is the most common test performed in clinical chemistry labs. We all know, even in the home also nowadays. So glucose is a simple sugar. It's called the monosaccharide. There is only one sugar molecule. So just remember the chemical composition for the monosaccharide, polysaccharide, disaccharide. It's a chemical composition. You doesn't need to remember. It's a made up of carbon, hydrogen, hydroxyl. So and in the different types of configuration or composition. So, but just remember, glucose is very simple sugar and it's called the monosaccharide. Saccharide means sweet from there, and this saccharide is sugar, and mono means only one sugar molecule. So, from where do we get the glucose? Are we drinking every day the glucose, pure glucose in the drink? No. We are getting our source of glucose is from the dietary carbohydrates. The chemical formula is glucose is C6H12O6. So it's made up of 6 carbon atoms, 12 hydrogen atoms, and 6 oxygen atoms. C12, oh sorry, C6H12O6. How it occurs? It like 6. So if you have the 6 carbon, you have 12 hydrogen. How come this? You can see, and O6, oxygen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here is 1, 6. And we have 12. So you doesn't need to need the structure, just remember, even it doesn't need to remember C6H12O6, but it's the composition. Who mainly helps to absorb? You eat something, carbohydrate digestion, then how it has been converted from carbohydrate to simple sugar like the glucose. The glucose in stomach. How is going to the blood? From the small intestine, it helps to absorb this monosaccharide, and ultimately these are connected with the blood vessels, capillaries. So ultimately it goes into the blood. And non-glucose monosaccharides like galactose, fructose, those are converted to glucose by the liver. In the small intestine, we just convert the carbohydrate to glucose, but these are more complex carbohydrates like the galactose, not the glucose. Glucose, galactose, fructose, those are converted to glucose. They are also converted. How is it converted? With the help of the liver, is by the liver. So our answer here, galactose and fructose, those monosaccharides, those are non-glucose. They are converted to glucose by the liver. And small intestine help to absorb this monosaccharide or the glucose. Blood glucose is controlled by the hormone insulin. Insulin secreted by what? From where?
Pancreas.
And what type of cells is secreted the insulin? In the pancreas.
It's called the islets of Langerhans, ma'am.
That is the islets of Langerhans, but what type of cells? Which
I think
cells?
the beta cells.
Beta cells. Beta cells secretes the insulin and alpha cells produce the glucagon.
Yes.
Insulin causes the breakdown of the glucose and glucagon is responsible for the formation of glucose. Both are secreted by that. So one is beta cells, insulin, alpha cells, glucagon. So blood glucose is controlled. It's the homeostasis versus when is the hypoglycemia, immediately glucagon comes in, the homeostasis feedback, negative feedback goes into the brain. Ultimately, it releases the glucagon hormone by the alpha cells of the pancreas, and ultimately then the production of glucose is started using the basic nutrients. And when there is a high blood sugar level in normal condition is high, it causes the breakdown of the glucose to make it the normal, to make the normal homeostasis at the normal level. So blood glucose is controlled by the hormone insulin. Insulin is produced by the pancreas, islets of Langerhans of pancreas, and the beta cells. So this is hormone is secreted by the pancreas after a meal, mainly. When you are eating, after the meal, it started secretion because you eat something, that means there is a digestion is going on, there is a tendency of increasing the blood glucose level. So now, okay, blood glucose level is getting high, I have to make it normal, the baby. So then what, the pancreas got the information, the homeostasis, the blood glucose level is getting high, so I have to break down it. So insulin reduces high blood glucose level by promoting glucose entry into the cells. It's from the blood, but you cannot throw out the glucose from your body. You need the glucose. Otherwise, how you are getting the energy? So the energy from the intestine, small intestine, it has absorbed to the glucose and is in the blood now. Circulating in the blood, glucose is high. It get the message, blood glucose is high now. Okay, insulin came in action from the pancreas. Brain send the message to the brain, hey, blood glucose is able now, is able, did patient eat something? Or the patient is a normal human being or whatever maybe. It's something, blood glucose is high. So pancreas said, okay, don't worry, I am telling islets of Langerhans to sing in insulin. So the islets of Langerhans told the beta cells, okay, now don't sleep, wake up. You need to seek the insulin. Insulin is secreted, is coming to the blood. And what it does, now it reduce that. It said wash out like the, you say, okay, they open the drain and the blood glucose from the blood, it goes inside the cells because cells needs the energy. By breakdown of glucose, they produce the energy to function. All the cells on the body. So that's why it says insulin reduces high blood glucose level, not by breaking down or chopping down the glucose. How it does? It promoting glucose entry into the cells. Okay, so this is a very good concept. You have to remember. It's better to learn, and also this is a question. Sometimes it comes how insulin acts. It reduces high blood glucose level by promoting glucose entry into the cell. Is it clear to everybody's head, mind, everything, brain? Any question? Can everybody hear me? Or I'm just speaking in the dark?
No, everyone's good.
No
Yes, ma'am, we
question.
can hear
Okay,
you.
okay, you can hear you. No, sometimes it became cut off, right? So it happens before I'm talking and you guys said you cannot hear it. So that's why. Okay. So now, even when cells, insulin send all the excess glucose from the blood to make it normal to the cells, but sometimes we eat more sweet in the tea, coffee, sweet, desserts, ice cream. So there are excess glucose. Sometimes we eat. We know it's not good to eat, but we have to eat it, right? We cannot control our taste and we need it. So there is excess glucose. What is going to be happen? The glucose is already inside the body. So this glucose is getting converted into protein and fat. It's called the lipogenesis. Genesis means generation. Generation of fat is called lipogenesis. Okay, so excess glucose is converted into protein and fats. Where the fat is stored? The fat is stored in the adipose tissue. Adipose tissue, we already have learned all these things. Just to refresh. So, most body cells have limited glycogen storage. But who stores the large amount of glycogen? Liver and skeletal muscles, because muscles is lots of energy, so they store the glycogen, and glycogen makes up 10% of the total weight of the liver. Liver plays an important role in glucose conversion, fat storage, the glycogen storage. So what are the different terminologies, medical terminologies associated with glucose? Glycogenesis, gluconeogenesis, glycolysis, glycogenolysis. Glycogen, when the excess sugar is converted into glycogen and stored in the liver and skeletal muscles, is called the glycogenesis. When it's forming, genesis means generation. When glycogen is forming, from where it is forming? From excess glucose, which we doesn't need. The cells are fulfilled. The body, whatever we ate, whatever the glucose in our stomach, it absorbed to the blood. Ultimately, insulin came. The insulin gives sense all the cells distributed whatever the glucose we have in all the cells over the body. But tool you have the excess. Cell says, okay, I am filled, nerve cells, muscle cells, skeletal cells, cardiac cells. Okay, right now I am okay with the glucose. I don't need any extra more. The glucose, extra glucose is there. This extra glucose is now converted to glycogen. Conversion means formation. So what is the formation? Is called the formation or conversion of extra glucose into glycogen is glycogenesis. These terminologies come: glycogenesis, glucogenesis, gluconeogenesis, glycogenolysis. So next, gluconeogenesis means gluco New. New glucose is formation, genesis. Gluconeogenesis, formation of glucose from lactate or amino acids. That is the basic things, which is stimulated by the hormone glucagon. The main formation of the glucose is glucagon. Also, cortisol and thyroxine also helps in that. But the main is glucagon, formation of the hormone responsible for glucogenesis, glucagon, and insulin, FSH, LH, cortisol. Select all that, apply. What you are going to take? Mark. Glucagon and cortisol, right? Is insulin is the responsible for the glucose formation?
No, ma'am.
So what insulin
It
does?
balances. It balances
To
the
balance the
sugar in
sugar
the
level.
body.
Balances, yeah, sugar
Yeah.
balances the sugar level. Glucagon
Yeah.
is directly related to the glucose formation. That's why called the gluconeogenesis. New glucose is producing generation of new glucose. That is, which hormone helps? Mainly the glucagon, which is secreted from the alpha cells of the pancreas, and the other two hormones, cortisol and thyroxine, also helps in the formation of glucose. Not like glucagon, but it's a little bit helped. Because thyroxine or thyroid hormone is the metabolism. It helps in the metabolism. So it's a part of the glucose metabolism. So once it is in the cell, when glucose inside the cell, now from the blood, it went inside the cell. What is going to happen now? Glucose can stay there like sitting as the glucose like a queen or king. It has to be used up. How is going to use up? The glucose is getting breaking down. There are couple of ways. Glucose may undergo glycolysis, glycogenesis, lipogenesis and protein synthesis. So here one is breakdown from glucose to other product. Other things are genesis, means producing. Inside the cell also, it can produce the glycogen, it can mix excess glucose, can produce the fat, lipogenesis, and some can use for making the proteins. So several hormones maintains the blood glucose concentration during fasting. We have remember the pancreas is an organ which can serve as exocrine and endocrine. Why is called the pancreas an exocrine and endocrine gland? Digestive
Because
system we have. Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes, go ahead.
yes, ma'am. It produces both enzymes and hormones.
Exactly. Enzymes help in the digestion and endocrine glands because it produces the hormone. This is the only organ in your whole human body which has both function, exocrine and endocrine. This pancreas, as we told, called the special cells called the islets of Langerhans, which contains alpha and beta cells. Alpha cell secretes glucagon and beta cell secretes insulin. So glucose hormones are glucose metabolizing hormones and glucagon and insulin. So insulin again is a hormone secreted by the pancreas mainly after the meal or if you eat some sugar. Response to high glucose level. So it's meal for sure. And who has a diabetic? If the value, the level cannot go down within 2 hours, it may say 3 hours, 4 hours, or the level stays high. So that means they are defective in sending the glucose to the cell. That's why diabetic patients feel slowly less weak because the cells doesn't get the enough glucose to produce the energy to function the body. That was a lot of damage happens in the body. At the same time, high glucose levels is circulating in the blood and is going everywhere. So insulin is a hormone secreted by the pancreas after a meal, responds to the high glucose level and promotes glucose entry into the cell. Clear? Now glucagon, it's secreted by the same organ, pancreas, alpha cells of the pancreas. It is the major hormone that opposes the action of insulin. That means it increases blood glucose level by stimulating the breakdown of glycogen. Now, in cells, we have the glycogen, which has been formed from it's a cycle. When you have excess glucose, glucose is converted to the glycogenesis to glycogen is kind of starch. And then when there is a less or low amount of blood sugar level, hypoglycemia, what is happening? Glycogen is already stored in the liver or in the skeletal muscles, and this glycogen is now broken down. The broken down is the lysis, and it forms the glycogen. So glycogenolysis means breaking down of glycogen to form glucose. And this happens, everything's liver take an important role in there. So these two hormones act opposite to each other. Glucose balance. At any given time, blood glucose level is under the control of number of hormones, obviously insulin, glucagon. So insulin is a hormone secreted by the pancreas after a meal, responds to high glucose level, promoting glucose into the cells, we know. Glucose may also be converted on the action of insulin to protein fat with the later stored as fat tissue, right? We have already that excess glucose can be converted under the action of insulin. It can go make the fat as a lipogenesis. It can make protein and this fat is stored in as fat tissue or adipose tissue. So most body cells have limited glycogen stores, right? So general, we have already, this is a summarize. So it has been stored in the mainly liver and skeletal muscle is the storage house of the glycogen. And glycogen constitutes 10% of the total weight of the liver. So this is the things. Pancreas, insulin, lower blood sugar level, okay, then normal blood glucose condition. If there is a less, then immediately pancreas secretes when there's a shift in the homeostasis, blood glucose is low, pancreas secretes the glucagon, and then glucagon from the liver breaks down the glycogen and release blood glucose level. When the blood glucose is high, pancreas get the signal, then it secretes the insulin, and then is normal the blood glucose. This is the homeostasis of blood glucose metabolism to keep the blood sugar level in the normal. So liver and pancreas is the main controller. Pancreas control or balance, and liver acts as the storage house and also help in the conversion of glucose to glycogen or glycogen to glucose. So depending on the cell's need, glucose may be undergo anaerobic and aerobic metabolism to yield energy and adenosine triphosphates. How is that from the energy? Gluconeogenesis, formation of glucose from lactate or amino acid. It is stimulated by the hormone glucagon, cortisol, and thyroxine. So you have the lactate or amino acids. From there, glucose is gluconeogenesis, formation of glucose. And also, it can alternatively, glucose can be produced by breakdown of glycogen, glycogenesis. Breakdown of also glucose. Okay. So alternatively, glucose may be biochemically converted and stored as glycogen. Glucose balance, glucose is primary source of energy of most of the cells. It's not like that without glucose, you doesn't have any diabetes or anything, you are not taking glucose that, oh, I may be diabetic. No. Until your body is capable of metabolism of glucose, homeostasis, it will do that. If you are deficient, if you are there is a problem, so then the homeostasis is breakdown, and then there is in need of some medication or some aid to do the control of the blood sugar level. So glucose is the primary source of energy for most of the body cells. Insulin regulates the concentration of blood glucose by promoting its entry the cell, followed by a number of possible metabolic fates, glycolysis, glycogenesis, lipogenesis, photosynthesis. You know all the terminologies. Glycolysis, breakdown of glycogen, glycogenesis, formation of glycogen, lipogenesis, formation of the fat, and everything is related to glucose. Glucose, glycogen, breakdown to form glucose by glycolysis, glycogenesis is from the glucose is formed from the glycogen. Lipogenesis, glycogenesis is formation of glycogen from glucose. Glycolysis is formation of glucose. Lipogenesis, formation of fat from glucose, and protein synthesis. And several hormones have the effect of maintaining blood glucose level, like the insulin, glucagon, cortisol, thyroxine. So these hormone has varied cellular effects, but all oppose the action of insulin by raising the blood glucose level. How to glucose balance? Glucagon, again, is repeating the same thing. I don't think there is no need, it's a repetition. So now let us see. Plasma glucose level increases rapidly after a carbohydrate-rich meal and returning to normal 1.5 hours to 2 hours after eating. That is the normal in general. Generally 1.5 hours, 2 hours, maximum 2.5 hours. Insulin, whenever you eat, after eating, within 2 hours. Generally, that's why when they do the fasting and PC blood sugar level, you are going to do a fasting blood sugar, then you are going to eat, and after 2 hours, you have to see the blood sugar level for the checking the diabetes, whether it is coming back to the normal level at after 2 hours. So plasma glucose level increases rapidly after a carbohydrate-rich meal and then is returning to normal 1.5 to 2 hours after eating, which called the postprandial PC. In general, it's called the PC or postprandial level. So these questions come. When you are going to, what is the postprandial meal and when you can do the blood sugar test meaning postprandial or PC blood sugar testing. Many diseases alter normal glucose metabolism. The most frequent cause as increase in blood glucose level is called the hyperglycemia, is diabetes. Hypoglycemia, when the blood sugar level is less than 3 millimole per liter, you have to remember this value. The question will come, what is the value you can consider hypoglycemia? When the blood glucose level is less than 3.00 millimole per liter with the unit, this is the SI unit. Write it down, note it, whatever you want to do. Hypoglycemia level, when your blood sugar level is below 3.0 millimole per liter, and it may have severe consequences, even leading to coma slowly. One cause of hypoglycemia in diabetic patient is excessive dose of insulin. That's why when they do the therapeutic drug monitoring, they have to do the monitoring the drug level, how much you are needed. So they doesn't start with the high level. Slowly they start with the low level and then go, because sometimes, say for diabetic patient is taking the insulin 2 times or 3 times or 1 time. By some reason, the diabetic patient that didn't eat anything, didn't get time to eat anything, but took the insulin, the blood sugar is going to be dropped, cause the hypoglycemia, and that is the severe shock for the diabetes patient. So that's why the otherwise the question comes, diabetes patients are always hyperglycemic. How they can get the hypoglycemia? If they doesn't eat for a long time, if they take the insulin on the diabetic pill or medication, they doesn't have enough glucose that time in the body, because whatever is the higher level, it is slowly used up. But at the same time, they are taking the insulin. There is no glucose. Whatever glucose is there, it's brought down. So one of the cause of hypoglycemia in diabetic patient is an excessive dose of insulin. The body secretes a number of hormones that increase blood glucose level, but only insulin lowers blood sugar level, like the cortisol, glucagon, thyroxine. If there is a low, they can try to compensate the blood glucose level, but insulin only lowers the blood sugar level. So hyperglycemia, increased blood sugar level due to reduced of lack of insulin. Increased glycogenolysis, that means breakdown of glycogen. Too much muscle activity, some muscle disorder, which forms the increased glycogen. From glycogen, it converts to or break down glycogen to form blood sugar. Other hormones, pituitary hormones related. It's rare, but sometimes pituitary hormones also stimulate to break down glucose, and that is also under the regulatory control of the pancreas. Hypoglycemia, blood sugar levels are less than 3 millimole per liter and can be caused by excessive insulin. Diabetes. Over 3 million Canadians, or 8.9% or 9% of the population, I think this is more now, have diagnosed diabetes, with prevalence increasing at an average of 3.3% per year. 6.1% of Canadians have prediabetes, putting them at high risk of developing type 2 diabetes. So what is the difference between that? There are 3 types of diabetes: type 1, type 2, and 3, gestational diabetes mellitus or GDM. What is type 1? Beta cell destruction is an autoimmune disease. In your own body, immune system, it destructs, it thinks the beta cells is a foreign to them. So that autoimmune disease. So they destroy the pancreas beta cells. So beta cells, if the beta cells is destroyed by your own immune system, there will be no production of insulin. So there will be insulin deficiency. So type 1 diabetes is results from the beta cell destruction. It's an autoimmune disease and usually leading to absolute insulin deficiency. Type 2 diabetes, it results from a progressive insulin secretory defect with insulin resistance. It's a defect in the insulin secretion, the insulin resistance. And the third one is gestational diabetes diagnosed during pregnancy. It's called the GDM. Other specific types of diabetes for other causes are the genetic defects in beta cell function, genetic defects in insulin action, disease of exocrine pancreas such as cystic fibrosis, chemical or drug-induced diabetes, such occurs during treatment of acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, any type of HIV or kind of like that, or after organ transplantation. Okay. What is insulin resistance mean? Insulin resistance occurs cells of body not to respond to insulin. Insulin is producing, the body cells are resistant. No, we are not going to use the insulin for the production or breakdown of the glucose. So insulin resistance is the name given to the cells that the body do not respond properly to the hormone insulin. That is called. So beta cells is producing the insulin. No problem in the pancreas. But the body cells is arrogant or they cannot. Okay, we are not going to work with insulin. So that is the resistance. Insulin resistance is the driving factor that leads up to type 2 diabetes. So type 2 diabetes is due to insulin resistance, where the body cells cannot use the insulin. And type 1 diabetes, the destruction of beta cells. These two you have to have a very clear idea because these questions come. What is the difference between type 1 or type 2? Type 1, destruction of beta cells of the pancreas due to autoimmune problem. Type 2 diabetes is due to insulin resistance, where the beta cells of the pancreas can produce insulin. Insulin is producing, insulin is there, but the body cells cannot use the insulin to break down the glucose. So ultimately blood glucose level is high. Type 1 diabetes or insulin dependent diabetes is usually diagnosed in children and young adults and was previously called juvenile diabetes. They can be diagnosed in very young stage. The genetic marker, human leukocyte antigen class 2 genes on the chromosome, you doesn't need to do that. Celiac disease is increased in patient with type 1 diabetes. Forget, celiac disease is related to type 1 diabetes and occurs with greater frequency in the general population. Okay. Type 1 diabetes results from the lack of insulin caused by the cell-mediated autoimmune destruction of the insulin secreting pancreatic beta cells, as I told you so many times, autoimmune destruction. This leads to the type 1 diabetes begin years before manifestation of clinical signs and symptoms. Before you feel I have the diabetes, it already started long before. So before you get the clinical signs and symptoms, this because it's already started from the very early things because the autoimmune disease. So breakdown of fat from adipose tissue. So what type 1 disease? The breakdown of fat from adipose tissue to supply energy in diabetes can life-threatening. So ultimately what happened? Then the cells need the energy because they need the energy. From where they are going to get the energy? Glucose is not breaking down. Glucose cannot form the glycogen because insulin is not working. If the beta cells is not working, insulin, there is no insulin. So body, whatever the fat and anything body has to survive, to get the energy, what happened? The body fat start breaking down. So breakdown of fat from adipose tissue to supply energy in diabetes can be life-threatening. Increased lipolysis result in increased concentration of ketone bodies. So when there is a high blood sugar level and it cannot be controlled because as the body cells cannot use the insulin, then body is destroying the fat to get the energy, and when the at the same time try to get the energy, but when the fat is lipolyzed, too much fat, it forms a ketone bodies. It's called the diabetic ketosis, which is life-threatening condition. The result may be a dangerous decrease in the blood pH or acidosis. When there is too much ketone bodies, the blood pH drops. What is our normal blood pH?
7.35 to
7.45.
7.45.
Okay. So the questions comes when you feel acidosis, blood is become acidic, when the level pH becomes less or below than 7.35, that means it started acidosis in the blood. And that can be caused by the formation of ketone bodies. How the ketone bodies forms? When there is the absolute insulin deficiency, the fat in the adipose tissue, stored fat, they break down, and during breaking down, at the same time, they're giving the energy the cells to survive, and also they are producing the ketone bodies. So now type 2 diabetes is mainly associated with the adults. But the type 1 diabetes can be the young children, young adults, everyone can. It can be diagnosed from that time. That is the genetic disorder also, autoimmune genetic disorder. And type 2 diabetes is mainly in the adults. The prevalence of type 2 diabetes has more than doubled since 1993. So it's also related to stress, different things. Incidence of type 2 diabetes or non-insulin dependent diabetes. Because insulin is there, even you do the insulins, it's resistant to insulins. As a type 1 diabetes, there is no insulin. So if you treat with the insulin, it can control. But type 2 diabetes, non-insulin dependent, is usually associated with the occurrence of later in life with a gradual onset, usually after 40 years of age. So that is called the type 2 diabetes is mainly takes place in the adult. More children and adolescents are being diagnosed type 2 diabetes. This is characterized the insulin resistant and progressive hyperglycemia. Nowadays, sleep stress is a huge factor for the developing of type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes patients can develop complications similar to those noted in type 1 because it's ultimately the glucose. But ketoacidosis is less like to order with type 2 diabetes as well because there is not absolute insulin deficiency, right? When there is absolute insulin deficiency, there is no insulin, incurable, then adipose tissue, fat in the adipose tissue break down to form the ketone bodies. So type 1 diabetes is mostly associated or life-threatening diabetic ketosis. Now, type 2 diabetes in the children and adolescents, testing for type 2 diabetes should be considered in children age 18 years or younger who are overweight. Sometimes who are overweight, they can have type 2 diabetes. So you say a BMI above 85th percentile of the age and gender or weight for the height above the 85 percentile or weight greater than 120% for ideal for height are risk factors. That is the BMI is calculated and they do that. So type 2 diabetes, family history of type 2 diabetes in first and second degree relative. Is race, ethnicity, signs of insulin resistance and acanthosis, hypertension or gestational diabetes. Testing begin 10 years onwards or at the onset of the puberty and should be tested every 3 years. If you have the family history of type 2 diabetes, It said you should be monitored for the diabetes from 10 years onwards or at the onset of puberty and should be tested every 3 years to make sure or to check whether you have tendency of developing the type 2 diabetes or you are getting diabetic or there is nothing, you are fine. So symptoms of diabetes, the primary symptoms of diabetes are excessive urination, polyuria, high blood glucose, hyperglycemia, and urine in glucose, glycosuria. Glyco means glucose, urine, urea is in the urine. And also hunger. You are always feeling hungry and sudden weight loss. Sudden weight loss because the fat tissue is getting used up, right, to get the insulin. That is the type 2 diabetes. So primary symptoms of diabetes. So these questions come. What are the symptoms of diabetes? They can give you different options, but you have to remember polyuria, glycosuria, polyphagia, and polydipsia, thirst, and hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia for sure. Diabetes means hyperglycemia, high blood glucose level. Polyuria, too many times going for the urination. Glycosuria, urine, glucose in the urine. Polydipsia, too much thirst, you are feeling thirsty. And also polyphagia, hunger. During acute episodes of the disease, excessive blood ketones are called the ketonemia and urinary ketones called the ketonuria. Emia means from the blood may be detected when the acute episode, when is diabetic is uncontrolled. That time the ketones comes from the breakdown of fat, non-stop breakdown of fat. The symptoms are all caused by the body's inability to metabolize glucose and the resulting consequences of the high glucose level. So glucosuria is consequences of hyperglycemia. That means when blood glucose exceeds 160 to 170 milligram per liter, that is the renal threshold level for glucose, glucose appears in the urine. So if your blood glucose level is that high, then the excess glucose even is getting storing, converting is so high, the renal threshold level broke down and glucose start appears in the urine. When the glucose appears in urine, that means you are really having high blood sugar. The actual diagnosis of the diabetes is established by determining blood glucose level. What is the gestational or GDM? Gestational diabetes, sorry, mellitus. GDN is defined as glucose intolerance that is first recognized during pregnancy. So generally 18% of women can be affected for the GDM diabetes. It's called the gestational diabetes. The hypothesis for the development of this diabetes supports the belief that what has happened, the placental hormone blocks the action of mother insulin in her body, because when you have the baby, there is formation of placenta and there are a lot of placental hormones started to work, and from where it comes from the mother's body. It's produced that time as per need, and these placental hormones, whether it's taking care of the baby to from the placenta to make the baby feeding, giving comfort, but sometimes it blocks the use of insulin in the mom's body. See, this is called the insulin resistance. That time these hormones block the action of mother insulin. So it's called the insulin resistance. Insulin resistance makes it difficult for mother's body to use insulin, and she may need up to 3 times as much insulin. So GDM occurs when a mother develops hyperglycemia. It's called the gestational diabetes mellitus, GDM. A mother's blood will contain excess inactive insulin, which cause acanthosis nigricans. It's a skin condition characterized the areas of dark velvety discoloration in the body folds and creases. From there, you can understand that you are having GDM. You can see some kind of black fold areas of the black where you have the body folds. You can see the velvety discoloration or in the creases. The affected skin can become thickened, most often acanthosis nigricans affect your armpits, growing neck. So those areas that is where you have the body folds, cleavage, those areas became a little bit dark, first soft velvety, sometimes it's become thickened. Gestational diabetes affects a mother in late pregnancy after the fetus has been formed, but while the baby is growing. Therefore, GDM does not cause the types of birth defects. So during the pregnancy, it doesn't matter anything when the baby is growing. Sometimes seen is babies whose mothers are diabetics before pregnancy. However, untreated or poorly controlled GDM can harm an unborn baby. Because ultimately blood is going from your body to baby's body. So if you control it, it's fine. Other causes of hyperglycemia for the GDM, in some cases, high blood glucose values are caused by conditions other than diabetes. So what are the causes? Can be secondary to traumatic brain injury, febrile disease, certain liver disease, and overactivity of the adrenal, pituitary, and thyroid gland, except the diabetes. Often hyperglycemic patients exhibit impaired glucose tolerance. So in the fasting, blood glucose of 2-hour PC glucose level is elevated above normal. That is the glucose tolerance. That's why for the diabetes patient, they did the OGTT, the oral glucose tolerance test, to make sure whether you have problem in the glucose tolerance limit. Stress-induced hyperglycemia is a condition encountered in non-diabetic person as well as the diabetic patient, as common in patients with severe illness. Nowadays, stress is a huge factor. Even they doesn't have a history in the family or genetic or anything, you are getting the diabetes due to stress. Diagnosis of GDM, screen for GDM at 24 to 28 weeks using a 70-gram dose of glucose for OGTT. But I know you have to put the 50 grams. They are telling 75 grams. So whatever I know, you have to give 50 grams for the. Anyway, whatever they are saying, 75 grams. 70. So for screening the GDM at the age of 24 or 20 weeks of pregnancy, they are going to test, giving you, first they are going to do the fasting blood sugar, then they are going to allow you to drink 75-gram dose of glucose, and then they are going to check the blood glucose level again at 1 hour and 2 hours. That is from 24 to 28 weeks. Screen women with GDM for persistent with the diabetes 6 to 12 weeks postpartum. Even so this is the non-stop, you are going to check it for the diabetes. Even after you deliver, it should be continued to check 6 to 12 weeks after postpartum using OGTT and non-pregnancy diagnostic criteria. Continue to screen women with history of GDM for diabetes for pre-diabetes at least every 3 years. Once you have the GDM, you have to check every 3 years so that you are developing or there is a chance the development of your diabetes. So Diagnosis of GDM, preconception care. If you know, maintains hemoglobin AC levels as close to below 7%. This is another question. What is your normal level? Is below 7% as possible before attempting conception. Provide preconception counseling starting at puberty for all women or childbearing potential. Evaluate and treat in women contemplating pregnancy who wants to become ready. So you can diabetic retinopathy, neuropathy, nephropathy, cardiac vascular. Who does all these things? And what is the oral glucose tolerance tests? That can be done for anyone who is considered or has a history of the family or think they can be their blood sugar is borderline or they may be a suspected diabetic patient. So fasting plasma glucose, so the oral glucose tolerance tests, OGTT, for the 75-gram glucose ring, male and non-pregnant females. 2 hours testing time. What is the unit of measurement? Millimole per liter. These are all important. Follow the handout. What's in the handout? There is going to be the handout, how to do that. Same thing, if they are going to do the fasting blood sugar, then they are going to 75 gram of glucose drink. They are going to tell you to drink in the 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then they are going to do the testing after 2 hours. Hypoglycemia is a blood glucose concentration below the fasting value with a transient decline to blood sugar to half to 2 hours after a meal. So glycogen storage disease associated with impaired breakdown of stored glycogen in the liver causes hypoglycemia. If all the glycogen which is storage is become continuously non-stop breakdown to meet the demand of the glucose or the energy in the body, so ultimately what is going to happen? There is a shortage of glucose causing the hypoglycemia. Other causes of low blood glucose include islets of hyperplasia and I don't know this. Insulinoma. Oh, pancreatic cancer. Okay. There's the enlargement of your pancreas called the hyperplasia or insulinoma. That means there is a cancer of the pancreas. So that can also cause the low blood sugar. Both these conditions results in an increased concentration of insulin in the blood. It's called the hyperinsulinemia. So hyperinsulinemia means high insulin in blood. Hyper means excess insulin and emia in the blood. Hyperinsulinemia. You can understand the medical terminology, how it is breaking down now. And insulinoma means cancer. Oma means cancer and insulin related cells. So when there is unruling production of the insulin, the cancer, that means so more beta cells is produced, unruling production of the beta cells and the secretion of the insulin. A decrease in the blood glucose is life-threatening because the brain and cardiac cells depend on glucose in the blood and interstitial fluids. They need the oxygen, they need the energy to function. So there is no glucose, even there is oxygen, they cannot produce the energy. If they cannot produce energy or the ATP, so how the cells are going to function? The cells cannot function and slowly either they are going to be damaged or going to be die. Same thing for the brain and cardiac cells. Hypoglycemia can lead to the nausea and vomiting, muscle spasm, unconscious and health. Diagnosis of diabetes. Canadian Diabetic Association recommends glycolated hemoglobin, that is called the hemoglobin A1C, used at the diagnosis stage, because sometimes some diabetic patient used to do, oh, I have the glucose test today, so they didn't eat 3 days any glucose things, then the results become normal. But actually those are normal. They like to cheat or feel good, try to feel good. Oh, my blood sugar level is. So nowadays, that's why they give the hemoglobin AC. Is give you the average of 3 months your blood sugar level, because these glucose become attached to hemoglobin and blood. 3 months means 120 days, and hemoglobin, the blood cells lifespan is 120 days. So hemoglobin A is formed when glucose binds to an amino acid glycosylate, hemoglobin A. That is part of the hemoglobin A protein, A or alpha protein. Hemoglobin has 4 proteins, right? 2 alpha, 2 beta. So it's bind to A, one of the A protein. The reaction occurs at the N-terminal valine. You doesn't need that. Okay. Hemoglobin AC is called the glycemic biomarker, because with that one you can understand exactly the 3 months average blood glucose level. It's also called the glycated or glycosylated hemoglobin. So it measured of the glycated protein, which has been the proteins is the hemoglobin which became attached to a sugar, the glucose. Sample is collected in EDTA, lavender top, whole blood. For hemoglobin A1C, you need the whole blood in the EDTA. Hemoglobin A1C is meant for both diagnosing and long-term glucose monitoring. So it's a diagnosis for the diabetes and for long-term monitoring. And it's tested every 3 months. Give us the long-term glucose monitoring values for 3 to 4 weeks. That is called the hemoglobin A1C. RBCs are freely permeable to glucose. Because RBC in the blood, glucose is absorbed from your small intestine. Now, RBC, red blood cells, is very freely permeable. Permeable means the glucose can go inside the RBC, and it can bind with the hemoglobin alpha chain or hemoglobin A. So RBCs are freely permeable. Permeable means like a shredder. It can get the glucose easily inside them. And then that glucose binds to the hemoglobin alpha chain. So it's called the measured by the hemoglobin A1C. The total glucose bound to hemoglobin is time average glucose concentration over 120 days before the measurement. Lifespan and RBC is 120 days, whatever I told you. So hemoglobin A1C range should be initiated at least less than 7% in diabetic treatment. This value comes the question. H1C range is less than 7%. So hemoglobin AC can be measured by automated chemistry analyzer. So that's why even it's collected in the EDTA tube, it goes to the chemistry department. It can be measured by the electrophoresis that you have learned today in the unit 1, so that it can separate the different fractions of the hemoglobin chains proteins, and when it's stacked with the glucose, that band is going to be more prominent because that is has the more than the normal one. Ion exchange chromatography and HPLC, high performance liquid chromatography. HbA1c should be done twice yearly if the patient has a stable glycemic control. Every 3 months if the glycemic control is impaired. Means glycemic control means if it is under the normal range or within the normal range or less than 7%. If it is constant, less than 7%, doctor or the diabetic or the suspected diabetic patients can be done twice a year. But if there is any point it breaks the glycemic control, is become after 3 months, first 3 months is maybe less than 7. In the 6 month or 6 months period or 8 months period, whenever they are doing, if the glycemic index breaks, means it became more than 7, then they prefer to order every 3 months. Glycemic index refers for to being in normal reference range, that is below 7%. Diagnosis of diabetes. Formation of HbA1c is non-enzymatic, occurs over the lifespan of the red blood cells. Because RBCs are freely permeable, same thing, blood glucose, the amount of total hemoglobin AC is related to the time average glucose concentration over 120 days. Because not all RBCs, when it's getting, some RBCs are getting destroyed, right? It's producing high glucose, is tagging. So that's the average. The target of diabetes treatment is a level of less than 7%. When it's less than 7% is good. According to ADA, 6.5% or less. Now they have increased to 7%. I'm just seeing this one. Before it was less than 6% or 6.5%. HbA1c testing should be performed at least twice a year if patients are meeting treatment goals and have stable glycemic control, what we discussed. The stable glycemic control, you can do it twice a year. If not, you have to do 3 months interval. For patients whose therapy has changed or who are not meeting the glycemic goals, HbA1c testing should be conducted quarterly, means 3 months interval. Specimen for glucose testing at different glucose tests. We can take the capillary blood specimen. An advantage of using whole blood is convenience for measuring the glucose directly with the capillary blood. For infants, mass screening programs for detection of diabetes and in the home monitoring done by the many diabetic patients. So you can poke the capillary, you can get the blood, and then you can measure the sugar instantly, like the POCT. You can also run in the chemistry analyzer when you are taking the blood for other things, TBC and other things, then they can do the glucose chemistry. So capillary blood must be thought of as essentially arterial rather than venous. This I don't agree. This line, capillary is whether it is arterial or venual, we doesn't know. In the fasting state, the arterial blood glucose concentration is 5 milligram per dl, higher than the venous concentration in fasting state, if it is the arterial capillary. So venous blood specimen, when blood, plasma or serum from a fasting patient can be used for a glucose assay. So you are going to use the grate of tube which contains the preservative, the sodium chloride. Preservatives means it prevent the glycolysis or glucose breakdown so that there will be no deterioration of the glucose level. So with the, what is the anticoagulant in the grate of tube?
Potassium oxalate.
And sodium chloride is the stabilizer or preservative or anti-glycolytic agent. It can come in different names. It can say the preservative, it can say the stabilizer, it can say the anti-glycolytic agent. So you have to remember that is the role of the sodium chloride to prevent or to stop glucose breakdown or decay. Okay, so an evacuated grate of tube containing the preservative sodium chloride is often used for the collection of blood for glucose testing. What fluoride does is saying fluoride inhibits the glucose metabolism by the cells in the sample, allowing for an accurate glucose determination if a number of hours will elapse before analysis. SST and PST can also be used at the separating gel, removes the serum and plasma from the same, must be done with 2 hours of collecting. That's the glucose, but not the hemoglobin A1C. So tube colors for blood glucose, you can take gold tube for fasting or random. You can take light green for the plasma, fasting or random. With the sodium heparin, you can use the sodium heparin here, not the, but for electrolytes, you cannot use the sodium heparin. Grate up plasma, delayed glucose, because potassium oxalate as an anticoagulant and sodium chloride as anti-glycolytic agent. So type of blood specimen random means no fasting or drink required. It's a screening test to check glucose level. It's a random, anytime. What is the reference range? 3.3 to 6.0 because random, you doesn't know whether you eat 1 hour before or 30 minutes before or you eat it for 12 hours. So it's a range. 3.3 to 6.0 is a huge range. But critical, even it's a random, it is below 2.5 or above 25 millimole per liter. That's a risky. Either you are going to extreme hypoglycemic shock or you are hyper. So that is the two random blood sugar critical is the range is 3.3. This you have to remember, note it down. Normal blood sugar level at random is 3.3 to 6.0 millimole per liter. But if it is go below the critical values are below 2.5 millimole per liter in the hypoglycemic side and hyperglycemic side is above 2.5 millimole per liter. It should be collected in the greater tube or SST centrifuge within 4 hours. PC is the postprandial, means after the meal. Can be 1 or 2 hours of PC depending upon when the doctor will say. Generally it does 2 hours. So PC means after a meal, not a glucose drink. Sometimes they give you the question. PC means after meal, after 1 hour meal, after 2 hour meal, or after meal, after the glucose drink. There are a lot of confusions and students marks the glucose after a glucose drink. No, that is glucose drink is OGTT, glucose tolerance testing. And PC means after you eat or drink 75 milligram of glucose, then you are testing the blood after 1 hour or 2 hour as per the requisition. So not often used for testing, but may be useful when monitoring GDM. We'll have to schedule test accordingly, collect in gate of tube. Fasting reference range 3.3 to 11 millimole per liter. Critical value less than 0.25, 0.25 to 25 millimole per liter. You have to collect in the greater tube or SST. The term fasting means that the patient has no food or drink for 8 to 12 hours. That is the life lab fasting hours. I heard the no food or drinks. Drinks means any kind of soft drinks, hot drinks. Only the water and the prescription drugs can be allowed if it doesn't affect the glucose level. So no food, no gum, no coffee, no tea, no juice, nothing. Only water. And you have to fast minimum 8 to 12 hours. So for the GDM can be done on a fasting or non-fasting patient. Glucose ring is, see, they did the wrong thing. So that I know what is right. For the GDM testing, they are giving the glucose ring of 50 gram at any time of the day and collect blood 1 hour post-dose in a grate of tube, oxalate with the fluoride. So you give any time of the day 50 gram glucose, then you can test after 1 hour. Stored in refrigerated environment until transport, record the weeks of pregnant on the requisition. How many weeks are pregnant? Perform this test in one location to ensure patient compliance so that you can do the test in the same location for the compliance. Once the drink is given, patient will stay in the outpatient waiting area for any glucose tolerance tests. The patient are not allowed to go out. Once they are doing the GT test, they have to be on campus or on premises. If screening test shows elevated glucose level, the next step is GTT. Then GTT means they are going to put, GDM testing is you can give only 50 gram. But if the test shows the elevated level, then they are going to go to the real GTT where you are using 75 gram. Types of blood specimen for OGTT in the detection and treatment diabetes. It is sometimes necessary to have more information than can be obtained only for testing the fasting specimen for glucose. That's why you need to do fasting, preprandial, OGTT. Patient with mild or diet-controlled diabetes may have fasting serum and plasma glucose within the normal range, but they may be unable to produce sufficient insulin for prompt metabolism of ingested carbohydrate. That means it should, propandial or OGTT, it should go down after 1.5 hours to 2 hours, but it's not going down. It's taking a long time to get back to the normal level. What is the types of blood specimen? GTT for 2 hours. For investigation of diabetes mellitus, for sure, mandatory that patients be fasting for a minimum of 8 hours. Glucose ring is 70-gram dose for adults, and for children, use the following calculation, that is 1.75 kg per kg to a maximum of 75 gram, depending about their body weight. So per kg weight of the body weight, you are going to put 1.75. So if a baby is 4 kg body weight, how much you have to give?
4 multiply 1.75.
1.75 times 4, right? 4 kg.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, good. First collect the fasting specimen, give drink, and then collect the 2 hours. So first you are collecting the fasting specimen, then you are giving the drink, and then you are collecting it after 2 hours. At that time, patient should not leave the premises. Collect in get-up tube. As usual, oxalate fluoride, complete test in one location to ensure patient compliance. That is always needed. You are choosing, you are not doing one day in the Hamilton, another day in the Brampton Civic, third day in the Credit Valley Hospital. What is called? Yeah. So types of blood specimen different. In Canada, we use millimole per liter. In some other places, which is equivalent to 5 milligram per dl. So this is the pre-diabetic, this is the severe diabetic, it's the 200. Greater than 300, my God. This is the normal GTT range. And this is the normal standard curve. This is the standard curve. Okay, so this is the standard curve. This is the pre-diabetic, when you have a little bit higher, severe. And this is when the blood sugar level is less than that, that means hypoglycemic. So POCT glucometer versus lab analysis. Point of care testing. Many patients regularly monitor their own blood glucose concentration. The standards of medical care in diabetes indicate that patients who maintain normal blood glucose level by intensive monitoring significantly reduce the risk of developing diabetic complications. Recent advances in capillary blood glucose meters have made it possible for almost all diabetic patients to test themselves with this easy to use instrument. So even who has diabetics, they cannot go to the every day, they can monitor that. However, blood glucose meters as consumer products do differ from the traditional laboratory methods, but that is for monitoring. But to get the exact results, you have to go to the lab and do the clinical testing. Manufacturers of point care instruments must balance accuracy with many other factors to ensure that these meters perform the hands of the patient. So point of care testing. So for regular monitoring, that's I told, for regular monitoring of their own blood glucose level, patient use capillary blood. That is the whole blood from the finger pick. So test strips contain enzymes glucose oxidase. So what happened? Any glucose present in the blood is converted to gluconic acid and hydrogen peroxide with the glucose oxidase and used in the catalyze the reaction. And the second enzyme is peroxidase is also present on the test strip. And the peroxidase uses, that is, you saw the antigen antibody reaction for doing the enzyme glucose oxidase, the EIA. The color change can be read on the reflectance meter. QC, patients will run QC and results will be kept in glucometer for when the physician connects and download. QC is commercially prepared and is easy to run, consists of different levels, high and low. set by the manufacturer, run just like a blood specimen, but system knows the QC is run when QC has to be run. So what do you think? This quality control method is not the same matrix as whole blood and the handle POCT recognize this? Yes or no? So this is the AccuCheck. You guys already did it, right, in the lab? The glucose estimation, right? You did it in the lab, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, so and most of the people, yeah. So always you have to check the expiry of the test strip. Moving the strips from one bottle to another, don't do that. Keep together as they will be same expiry date. Sometimes you take from one, oh, okay, put it in another tube. You open 2 or 3 tubes, then you're putting one to another. Don't do that. You are taking the test strip, you are putting it back. Generally prefer not to take it out and put it back. Use that one because when it's coming outside, it may touch hand or here or there. That's not good to put it back. Run QC controls from the known value samples. You have to run the test strips. So make sure your kit is working.
Ma'am, we have not done yet in the lab. Not
Huh?
yet, ma'am. Not
Huh?
yet. The capillary poke for glucose
You didn't do that?
measurement. Not yet, ma'am.
Okay.
We did already only the HemoQ.
HemoQ, that's it.
Okay, that
Yeah,
is only the
that's it.
same. They're the
Yes, ma'am.
same. So you have the test strip, you are going to window, you are going to poke it, you put the oils, do it. And then most of who has the diabetes, who does it in the, I hope nobody has the diabetes. I pray for that. But
I
in case
do.
nice.
Me
So
too.
nice, nice. Okay. So you guys know how to do that. It's very simple. It's the instrument. You have the you for the lab, you have to do the quality control with the known standard. So you have the known standard. You are going to put the test strip, the known standard, and put it in the glucose meter and read it. If it is giving the same value, what is the standard value has, and then you can run. You can take the blood capillary puncture, and then you can take the blood in the test strip, put the test strip there, and you can put the blood and it's automatically go and going to do the what is nephrotomy reflectance light scattered reflection technology. Laboratory analysis, qualitative analysis by Benedict's reaction develops color that is to do by hand before. Now auto analyzer does that. And also the glucose oxidase and hexokinase. That is the chemical method. They detect the glucose level. And also you can do the test strip nowadays. So glucose strip consists of glucose oxidase, peroxidase, dry reagent. So what you are going to do? Oh, this is the chemistry. It doesn't need that. It forms a, where do you put the glucose? It forms that the test strip. What is in the test strip has it's glucose oxidase, peroxidase, dry reagent. So when you put the blood, it forms a color proportional to the amount of glucose present. Glucose oxidase methods can be used to measure the glucose. Sometimes the glucose is not only measured in the blood, it's also used measured in your body fluids. Sometimes it's measured in the CSF and sometimes mostly in the urine. Also, blood and urine. So this glucose oxidase can measure glucose in CSF and also, but this method should not be used for urine unless the urine is pretreated because of high concentration of other substances present in the urine. Okay, hexokinase is the spectrophotometry, 340 nanometer. It can measure after doing the color development. You can measure the color at color 340 nanometer to give the exact value. Other lab testing in the reference to diabetes, ketone explained diabetic as glucose has troubles entering cells for storage, glucose breakdown, ultimately from the ketone bodies. So what is happening? Fat will be used instead of glucose. Three main ketone bodies are acetone, acetoacetic acid, and 3-beta-hydroxybutyric acid. These are not going to come. You only if you just know the ketone bodies, that is enough for me. Ketone bodies are also formed when the patient experiences starvation, fasting, and prolonged vomiting. Ketonuria, accumulation of ketone, except the diabetes, type 1 diabetes mainly, it can If you are starving for a long time or fasting or you have prolonged vomiting, sometimes the body is going to break down your fat and going to release the formation of the ketone bodies. And it can be shown in the urea, is called the ketonuria, and when it's coming to the blood, is called the ketone. So accumulation in ketones in the urine is ketonuria. Urea means urine and amia means blood. So accumulation of ketone in blood is called ketonemia. What is ketoacidosis? Typically occurs with undiagnosed diabetes. Patient is not on insulin treatment and the body using fats as energy source. Ketone bodies build up and patient can go into a coma. So too much development of ketosis means they can produce any of the three compounds, which is fatal and leads to coma and sometimes is irreversible coma. A common method to test ketone bodies in urine reagent strip, which contains sodium nitroprusside. The urine strip is easy to measure the ketone bodies. Gives purple color to the reagent strip if it is positive. So this is the ketone bodies. This is the pH strip where you are measuring it. You can see the blood pH and this color. Both are same. That means it has this pH. If it is this pH, means higher. If it is less pH, then slower. Why urine is tested for glucose? So when blood glucose concentration exceed 10 millimole per liter, urinary glucose excretion occurred by the kidneys because this is the renal threshold for glucose, how much it can revert it back or hold it. Fresh urine is best for testing because there you can get exact the amount. If you keep it for a long time, there is no preservative there like the fluoride. So glucose can degrade it. Test within 2 hours or as soon as possible. If not, refrigeration or addition of preservative is required. Urine specimen can also lose up to 40% of the glucose concentration after 24 hours at room temperature. So if you can keep the sample at room temperature for 12 hours, it is going to lose its efficacy up to 40%. What are the different glucose references? There is no significant difference in the serum or plasma glucose concentration between males and females. It's the same with the female and males. It's like the hemoglobin or the other things, they have some different values, but for the glucose is standard. Whatever blood sugar you will get is the high or low for male and female is same. In normal CSF, the glucose concentration is about 2/3 of the plasma level. In the cerebrospinal fluid also they have the plasma, but the plasma level is less. It is important to measure the blood glucose concentration simultaneously when CSF glucose is tested, so the CSF glucose result can be evaluated appropriately. So that they are telling when you are taking the CSF glucose, you have to measure the blood glucose also to make sure the balance is proper or is containing or keeping that balance. There is no detectable urine glucose in urine unless the renal threshold for glucose has been reached. So generally, we don't have any urine in the glucose in the urine. Urine in the glucose means you are really diabetic. Glucose fasting again, 3.3 to 6.0. Glucose random, 3.3 to 11.0. Glycolated H1C, 5.3 to 7.5% total hemoglobin, and range is less than 7%, and glucose and cerebrospinal fluid is 2.22 to 3.9 millipore. That is the chart. Critical glucose values below than 2.5 liter and higher than 25.0 milliliter. Rest results that are extremely high or low are called alert values or critical values or panic values. Any test result, not only for the glucose. We have learned it, right? So anything which is above normal with high value exceeding, so it's called the panic value, alert value, or the critical value. And it needs immediate attention. You have to inform the nurse or physician or your supervisor who is there. Every lab must establish its own critical values for various tests, because what type of standards you are using, what type of instrumentation you use, what type of calibration you are doing. So every lab have the set value compared to the other kits. So this is the different range you guys can have. Okay, unit 2 is done. We are going to do the unit 2 tomorrow. Let me see what they're seeing here. Is there anything? Video, live lab, error. You have this one before. We have seen this one. What is the different types of blood glucose level? Okay, so here is the values for remembrance. Oh, we have unit 2 electrolytes testing and levels. How many? We have learned the electrolytes. Why you have to do this one again? Forty-three slides. We can skip some of them because you are already know. We'll see how much you can complete tomorrow, okay? Then we can do the test on Thursday. Maybe afternoon, okay? Maybe you need
Yes,
some
ma'am.
time.
Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Afternoon, okay? So we just, I can start this one, but it's only 10 minutes left. You want me to start this one or we to start tomorrow?
No.
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 Oh, God.
No, ma'am.
It's no, my head is moving around and I can understand you doing everything and non-stop talking, you know?
Exactly.
Okay, so you guys can take care of that, review by this time, okay? Whatever I send, you guys can. And I also send you another one for your reading. I made the
Yes, ma'am.
gist of all these things and send you the, so that
Thank
it
you.
is going to be easy for you guys to study the review, the very
Yes, thank you, Miss.
precise
We got
things.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
got it, ma'am. Thank
So
you.
just try to whatever time you have late, then you guys can do that one, okay? And then
Okay.
yeah, let me see what is happening in the next unit 3. Okay. I am stop sharing because I'm go to the unit 3. Mic is on. Let the mic on. Oh, here. Oh, that's the unit 3. How many slides are there? Mm-hmm. This is quality assurance, right? Clinical chemistry. Do you need to?
Hi guys, can you please do me a favor? It's in home. Yeah, I couldn't see the message on WhatsApp from yesterday, and it says have to update. And when I update, it says the vision of WhatsApp is removed from App Store. So so I couldn't like update the vision. Is anyone know the vision of WhatsApp can send me?
Ian Hong, do you mean that you were removed from the group or?
No, it's I couldn't see the message. I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah.
Or you maybe have to update the application you
Yes,
have
I
for the
guess
Yeah.
WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yeah, it says need to update, but when I click to update, it says the version of WhatsApp. It's removed from the App Store.
Oh.
That's
Like
strange.
I couldn't update it.
Or maybe what you do is uninstall that one in from your mobile phone and then reinstall again the other one.
Yes.
Yes.
Good idea.
Right.
Yeah.
So in store. So what version of WhatsApp it's in store? It's because I think my vision.
Oh, you want the
So-
version of the WhatsApp? Okay, let me just check on the Play Store.
Oh, okay, thank you, Krishna. Thank you, guys.
But I think before you delete the app or remove the app, you can go into your app and do your backup, or if you want to back up any messages or anything that
Right.
you want to
Right.
go.
So that
Yeah,
you
go
can
back and
save all the conversation.
so you won't lose your messages, or you should. If you want to keep your messages, your previous messages, you go back to your app and do backup before you delete the app.
Oh, go back to app.
Yeah, can you make any changes in the app or no?
No.
You
When
cannot
I
use
click-
it anymore?
Yeah, it says you can't see message. You need to update.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You better
It does not
uninstall
open.
One
that
time
one.
you can do one thing. You can shut down your phone and restart it.
Okay, I tried to miss. Oh,
You did
shut
it?
down.
You did it? You
No,
shut down the phone. You power up the phone totally and restart it. Sometimes it works.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know whether it's going to work or not, but sometimes it works.
Yeah, sometimes it does.
Yes,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I couldn't see the message from yesterday. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
And just to let you know, the version is 2.24.
2.24.
If that helps. I don't know.
Yeah, Chris, and I couldn't see you, and even I couldn't see you number. You know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See, like this.
Oh, update WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yeah, but when I click update, it's not how update. It said the vision. WhatsApp, the message is removed from App Store. It's not available.
Wow.
So I can't update it. Okay.
Or maybe you have to uninstall that one and then reinstall a new one.
Yes. Uninstall.
Yes.
Yeah, then that's the only thing that you can do now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I shut down and restart to try to.
Yeah, you try that
Yes,
first.
yeah.
If it's not work, you have to
because Miss
uninstall.
Momo. Yeah.
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 Thank you so much.
So many problem with the digitized thing.
I know.
Yes,
Oh.
that's right. It's true.
Yeah, I couldn't see the group. I couldn't log in our group. Yeah.
Binas, you become able to work on the D2L now.
Yes, ma'am.
You become figure it out. Evelyn helped you
Yes.
yesterday.
Yes, she did.
So, yeah, you have to work on the exam on the D2L. Okay, Thursday. You are
Yes.
getting all my emails now?
Yes, ma'am.
It's okay. You understand everything what I'm teaching?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Salma, yeah. Your son is also getting teaching for me. She is going to be lab tech, junior lab tech.
Yeah.
Guys, I just had a quick question. I know tomorrow we still have to go through like the unit 3, so we're not going to have time to do like the exam review. I was wondering if you guys are available after class, let's say for 30 minutes to maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes, like around 1 o'clock, if we can go through like some of the questions and answers, if you're interested. I'm working on mine now, but just in case, if I have my answers right or not.
Yeah, that would be good, Christiana.
Okay.
Yeah, because we don't have that much. I look at it, maybe we have 9 pages.
Yes.
Not sure. Yeah. So that it's not that much.
Yeah, not too much.
After our lecture, yeah, after lecture with mom tomorrow.
Yeah,
Even
I'm
I
on
don't know
page
whether
2.
I'll be able to complete the unit 2 is still left over. Unit 3 has lot. So I don't know whether I'll be able to do that. But I will try.
Yes. Yes, Miss.
It's okay, mom, because we have already the review. You can just go through that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that
And
helps.
Yeah, the
test
review is
1,
going
2,
to
3.
helpful. Yeah.
Yes, mom.
Okay. Thank you. That sounds good. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Welcome. Bye-bye.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, have a good day.
Bye.